McMullen McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We thank Paul Schwartz for jumping in. We will do a Commander's spot tomorrow. Grant Paulson, great talk show host, and does some I keep wanting to call him the Redskins. Commanders stuff, football team, whatever the hell Mr. Harris wants to change.
I think they change every year now.
And they could change that. It's not going to happen this season because we're too close to the season. But if Harris wants to change the name, once he actually gets control of the squad, he can change it again if he wants. And I'll still call them the Redskins. My apologies for that. But we're going to do a Washington spot tomorrow with Grant Paulson from down in D.C. And then on Thursday, we got our boy John McMullen from The Athletic, Cowboys beat guy on. So we're going to do a little bit of an off-season deep dive on each of the three Eagle opponents over the course of the week. All right, Johnny Mac, don't know if you noticed this last night. I saw a bunch of it after the show was over and done with last night as I'm prepping to do my WIP show. We had Jeff Kerr on yesterday, and I asked him the same question I asked a couple of our guests at the end of last week with the schedule reveal coming up. Who do you want to see the Eagles play opening week? If you had the power, Roger Goodell said, yeah, you go ahead and pick it. And you could hand pick the opponent for the Eagles for week number 1. We know who the 17-game opponents are going to be and where the game's going to be played. We just don't know when it's going to be played. If I narrowed it down to week number 1, who would you want to see? We got a lot of response after the fact on Twitter, too. And thanks for following us on Twitter. With me putting the question to Kerr, and I realized I never put the question to you. I've done it with a couple of different guests, but I haven't gotten your answer to that question. For the best of the Philadelphia Eagles, for the season to play itself out the best that it can, if maybe I did ask you to play Jeff Lurie rather than say, John McMullen, what would you like to do? So let me ask it directly of you. What would you say the Eagles' best opponent for opening week would be?
I would say Kansas City, get it over with. I'm a little bit different than last year. You probably remember from last year, I didn't think Detroit was the best matchup because I thought they were going to be a bad team. I was wrong on Detroit. They ended up being a pretty good team. I thought they were going to be a bad team, but I think they were heading in the right direction. And my whole thought process was, I don't want to play bad teams when they don't know they're bad yet. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know they were bad, and they played really well, and they didn't know they were bad because they weren't bad, even though they started out, and eventually they turned it around. This time, like, the Eagles are going to be a good team. It's just a matter of how good. We had a little fun with our buddy Peter King yesterday, saying no weaknesses. I'm not going to go that far, but they're a really good team. So, at some point they're going to go on a run and win a bunch of games. And, a couple reasons where I would say Kansas City is that, maybe they're not sharp early. I think Jeff brought that up yesterday. And even if you lose, get it over with, then you go on maybe a run. Plus the business aspect, when you asked me to be Jeffrey Lurie, and from that, because you brought up Arizona, I think that's more of a fan thing. Like, they want revenge on Jonathan. Like, Jeffrey Lurie likes Jonathan. He tried to give him a raise to keep him. So from that standpoint, I don't think Jeffrey would prefer the business aspect, and that would be such a big game.
All right, let me see if I can give you an analogy on my thinking. If we're going down to, where's my hand? Ocean, right there. If we're heading down to the casino, I don't know how to underline ocean there. If you and I were going down to Ocean, what game would you play? If we were going to do a little gambling, what game would you play?
Which game?
Game of chance at a casino. If you were
blackjack
going down to casino, and
I thought you were talking about NFL game.
What one you playing?
Blackjack, probably.
Blackjack. Same thing here. Here's how I look at this question I'm asking you. If you've got two nines, and the dealer's got a 7. The percentages say just take the win. Stay with your 18, cash your chips, make them pay you. The gambler might say, yeah, and if I catch 2 10s, now I got 19 and he's got a 7. I could double my money. I could make twice as much. That's how I look at this situation. Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals are that solid 18 with the dealer sitting on a 7. You can rake that money in now. You're going to win. I guess the dealer could turn up an ace and you get a push, but a push isn't even the worst thing in the world. Or do you want to gamble a little bit? Do you want to say, let me split these 9s and see if I can catch 2 10s and win on both hands? That's Kansas City. If you win, now you can split the 9 and go 10-10 or 10 ace. Boom, you win twice rather than once. Or you could split them and get a 3 and a 4, and you go into Kansas City and get beat again with a couple of walk-in touchdowns with a new defensive.
Oh man, I didn't think about Sean Desai getting beat on walk-in touchdowns.
Yeah, I figured out all these permutations. And now if you win, it's great. You're winning twice. You're winning double. But if you lose, it's a little bit painful because you had a win in your hands. If you got a choice, and the Arizona Cardinals, you mentioned Peter King, and I noted this, his early power rankings that the Eagles are the only team without a weakness, number 1 in a category by themselves, but he's got them listed 1 to 32. The Eagles play 8 of the 9 top 10 teams. They are all on their schedule from Peter's top 10. They got a hard schedule. Eagles have a hard schedule, but they also play team number 31 and 32. He's got Arizona dead last, 32nd, worst team in the National Football League. Wait till 2025, not 2024, which is the year after next. Oh, no, you got to wait 2 years before you're even worthy talking about Jonathan Gannon. And he's got the Bucs' sons, Tom Brady, led by Baker Mayfield, as number 31. So they're playing the top and the bottom of the NFL this year. Really tough at the top, nice gifts at the bottom. One of those 2 gifts is the Arizona Cardinals, and you get them at home. You have to go down to Tampa to play the Bucs. Where that game scheduled. I want the Cardinals not to boo Gannon because I want a layup, John. I want to start the season off on the right foot. I want to make sure it gets going exactly the way you want it to. Give me the Cardinals because they're going to stink on ice next year. So that would be my choice for the first game of the season.
By the way, I think Peter had Tampa Bay last, if I'm correct.
No, Arizona last.
Oh, Arizona.
Tampa next to last. And the Eagles play both of them. They play team number 31 and number 32. Both on their schedule next week.
I would put Tampa Bay last, to be honest. You know who I also think is going to stink on ice? The Rams.
And I got them too. I think Peter had them in the high 20s.
Yeah.
Might not have
and
been
Arizona.
30, 31,
here's
32.
the thing about Arizona. And you know, forget about Gannon for 10 seconds if these people ever could. And I don't know when Kyler Murray's going to be back. But Kyler Murray, I think people forget about Kyler Murray. I mean, that guy, he almost beat the Eagles last year. He can make plays. And, you know, that's the reason I put the Tampa Bay certainly behind Arizona. And the Rams, you know, Matthew Stafford's obviously aging, good quarterback, and I don't know where he's going to be health-wise. So, but that's why I put the clear delineation between Tampa as the worst team on the Eagles' schedule. They don't have an answer. I mean, Kyler Murray can beat you. And again, I don't know when he's going to be healthy, when he's going to be back. A little bit of a more dangerous Justin Fields, who is, even if it's helter-skelter, he might pull a horseshoe out of his you-know-what and make a couple plays, and all of a sudden. But, yeah, I mean, the Eagles got to beat that team. I mean, layup. But we were a lot of people were saying layup, you more than me, but I thought the Eagles would have a relatively, you know, I thought they'd win by 10, 11 in Detroit. A lot of people thought that would be a layup. It was far from a layup.
True.
Kyler Murray, I think people forget about. That's all I'll say about Arizona.
Yeah, he's better than Baker Mayfield, although both of them were the number one overall pick in the draft. We kind of forget that because we're a couple of years removed. They were both number one picks in the draft, both coming out of the same university, as a matter of fact. Um, here's maybe it's because I'm already looking ahead. Here's where I may buy into your quota there, John. That Tampa could be worse. Shame on them as an organization. Their big offseason signing is Baker Mayfield? Really? That's what you come away with. You're watching Tom Brady finally walk out the door. And oh, by the way, he gave you an extra year. If he had walked away after the Super Bowl, you had to say, thank you very much, Tom. We appreciate it greatly. No, he stuck around thereafter. He didn't get you back there again, but at least he stuck around for a couple. And he finally decided to retire. And your game plan is let's go with Baker Mayfield. Maybe we'll give Kyle Trask a chance. And I thought he was a pretty good college quarterback. You should ask Brian Johnson at some point about Trask if you think he can actually wrestle that job away from Baker Mayfield. They didn't draft a quarterback, and they didn't even sign a quarterback as an undrafted free agent. They only got 2 QBs in camp right now. What is Tampa thinking? I think Tampa's got a 53-man roster. Compare their roster to Arizona. I think Tampa's got the better roster, but certainly Arizona's got the better quarterback. Does Tampa even have a quarterback in your mind at this point?
Well, I have two, as you mentioned, by definition. Can either of them play?
Legitimate starting quarterback in the
No.
National. When I
Well,
say do they have a quarterback, I mean, do they have a legitimate starting quarterback in the National Football League?
I think they have a bottom 5 starting quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield, we always say, yeah, I think Baker Mayfield is one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the world, but there aren't 32 great starters. I think he's bottom 5. So depends on your definition. Is he a legit starting quarterback? Yes, but he's not a good starting quarterback. Kyle Trask, yeah, I don't know what to think of Kyle Trask. And they still have some good players, obviously, and Mike
Yeah, the
Evans is still
quarterbacks will put
there.
up some numbers with those wide receivers.
Yeah,
The Giants wish they had the Bucks wide receivers.
yeah. So there's still the remnants of sort of that Super Bowl team. And I think Peter's the one who said it was worth it. You know, you get that Super Bowl championship and you got to take a step back, but they're going to take a step back. They're not going to be very good. And yeah, if you're asking me the biggest layup on the Eagles' schedule, projected schedule, I would say Tampa would
Yeah,
be
but
the biggest
Tampa's
layup.
on the road. Arizona's coming to Philadelphia.
That's true too.
They factor the home field advantage. I'd say Arizona. I know Gannon's your guy, and I do more defending of Gannon than questioning Gannon, but the Cardinals are going to be bad. And oh, by the way, the question is first game of the season, which guarantees Murray's not going to play, or pretty much does. I don't think he's going to be back for the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, if he's not there, if he's not playing, yeah, then it's definitely Arizona's definitely the biggest layup. I'm assuming it's going to be later in the season. He's going to be there. And yeah, I just think people forget about Kyler Murray because last year wasn't a great year, obviously, for him. But the year before that, I mean, people were raving about him, talking, he's a top 10 quarterback. He's getting the big money deal. You know, they started out, whatever, 9-1 that year. Remember how they started out 9-1? Everybody was like, oh, he's a superstar.
I had him going to the Super Bowl 45-1. I took a flyer out. I'm going, can I actually hit this? Do I have a chance here?
I meant it's amazing to me how quickly people turn. Now he can't play. No, he can play. He can play. Now, is he frustrating at times? Yeah, we know all the stories about he doesn't do the off the field work and all that kind of stuff. But he's stinking talented, man. And one of those things about those undersized quarterbacks and everybody's questions on Bryce Young, and I think Bryce has got a chance to be a really good quarterback, but do not compare the athleticism of Bryce Young with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is different when it comes to that kind of stuff. He's running around like that big play down the field where he runs around it's like a Randall Cunningham play. Was it Hopkins he hit down in the end zone? He is really gifted, and I just feel like people forget about him. It's amazing how quickly people turn.
He is gifted and can do certain things with the football that I don't know any other quarterback, including Jalen Hurts, including Lamar Jackson, can do. But my knock on Kyler Murray's always been the same thing: field awareness. He just isn't in command out there in the football field. And oh, by the way, Philadelphia Eagle fans, don't forget, if he knew where the sticks were in the game between the Cardinals and the Eagles this year,
he
they
almost
could
beat
have
him.
lost. They could have lost that game, but he didn't know where the first down was and slid down short of it, which meant they had to go field goal. And the Eagles had the better replacement kicker than the Cardinals had.
Yeah, I was going to say, and
that
you're
was
right.
the difference in that game.
And you're right. Kyler made a big mistake, but even if they had a decent kicker, you know,
that's field awareness. You got to know you got a substitute kicker that you don't know he's going to make this kick or not.
Oh, I'm not excusing it, but I'm just saying that was a really bad team last year against a really good Eagles team, and they almost beat them. They were in a position. So, I mean, this is the NFL, and you know, everybody's got good players. I say it all the time, and anybody can beat anybody. It's proven every year. But I agree with you. There's 3 layups on this schedule, projected schedule to me, and that's Tampa, Arizona, and the LA Rams. Those are, to me, the 3 layups. And I don't think Washington's going to be very good, but I'm not talking in the division.
Right. But the thing about Washington is you can get them at home. You can get Tampa at home, the Rams and the Cardinals. Cardinals and Washington would be home. Washington's away too, but the Rams are an away game as well. And here's the thing about Washington. I'm a little tempted by Washington. We kind of forget that was one of the Eagles' losses last year. Washington came here. Eagles kind of shot themselves in the foot as much as Washington beat them. But Washington did actually
only loss with Jalen Hurts. Only loss with until the Super Bowl.
Right.
Only loss.
So they kind of owe the Commanders one, getting them week 1, sticking it to them at the link might not be a bad way to go. And I did this last night on WIP since I saw as many people respond to it on Twitter after we discussed it here on Birds 365. Number 1 choice was Cardinals. They want Gannon coming to town.
Yeah. I could have told you that.
A layup plus the chance to boo Jonathan Gannon. Yeah, that got the most votes. All right, I vote for Brandon Lee Gowton joining us next. Are you in with that, McMullen?
Yeah, BLG. I'm excited.
All right.
Give me, he's in the green room already. Give me the BLG. There we go.
And was it the Hall of Fame? When did RVD? Oh, no, for the draft.
Yeah.
The WWE draft, they brought him back. Yeah. RVD got to announce picks. I loved every minute of it. All right, BLG, not RVD. Brandon Lee Gowton joining us next here on Birds 360.